My husband, male 33, adores his mom. He's the only child in the family and they're very close. He'd buy her expensive gifts for her birthdays, but this year, he's been stressing out about finding a good gift for her. Since he's been unemployed for 6 months, he brought up the jewelry set my mom gave me and asked if I was willing to give it away so he could use it as a gift for his mom's birthday. I said no and thought that his request was strange. He pointed out how many other things I have of my mom's, which is true, but the jewelry set wasn't something I was willing to give away, especially not to his mom. He got upset, pitched a fit, and kept begging me to give it to him, even offered to buy it off of me, but he had no money, so he suddenly stopped bringing it up. On the day he left for his trip to go visit his mom and attend her birthday, I found a small note that he wrote mentioning he took the jewelry set with him and telling me not to panic or do anything stupid, and that we would talk about it when he gets back. I was furious but felt helpless. I thought I was never going to see the set again. I called his phone, but he turned it off after hanging up on me. So I called my older cousin, who works at the local police station, and told him what happened. He suggested I make a report so he could help me retrieve it. He then sent a police patrol to the airport where my husband was, and he was taken in, and his ticket was canceled. I got the jewelry set back, and he eventually was let go, but when he got home, it all broke loose, and he started yelling at me while cussing out my cousin and calling him a stuck-up blank, saying we were both horrible and out of line, and that I knew my cousin hates him, and this gave him an opportunity to humiliate him. He then yelled about how he missed his mom's birthday and had his trip ruined because I hate his mom this much. I don't hate her, but I don't want my stuff given away on my behalf. He was livid to the point where he went to stay with his buddy for 2 days without answering any of my calls. I'm seriously having regrets about it, but what was I supposed to do after he took my jewelry set and had me thinking that I may never see it again? Getting my cousin involved might have also just worsened his relationship with my husband, since they've never been on good terms to begin with. Am I the idiot for involving the police to get the jewelry back? Not the idiot. Let him stay at his buddy's forever. He's jobless and mooching off of you. What the heck is wrong with him? On no planet is his behavior justified. I think it's time to consider whether you want to stay married to someone who feels it's okay to steal from you to get his mother's approval. He clearly needs therapy. Maybe this incident is the wake-up call you both needed. If you have to call the police on your own husband, I would be rethinking my relationship with that person. OMG, his audacity to ask you not to do anything stupid? He did something incredibly stupid and heartless, stealing from his partner. Out of curiosity, is this his first time doing stuff like this? Not respecting your opinions, your possessions, and most importantly, your explicit no. Also, be prepared for him to throw you under the bus potentially. If his family comes for you, make sure to state that his gift for Mother Dearest was stolen goods. Everyone's the idiot here. He stole that jewelry after you specifically told him he couldn't have it, so he deserves the consequences. I say you might be wrong because you could have called his mom, explained the situation, and requested that she send them back. I suspect the damage to your marriage will be too much to repair, but that's probably a good thing if his mother is so important that he'd steal something from you. Disagree. There's no way this marriage could be saved. OP, do not feel sorry. Do not think you did something wrong. Do not give him anything to apologize for. And don't let him back in the house. He stole from you. Not only that, but he stole something that your mother gave you without regard of what that would do to you. He's shown that you don't matter. Believe him. Please consider divorcing him and sending him packing to his mom's. You're clearly not a priority to him. I had gone to Vegas with a few friends, my boyfriend and my boyfriend's brother. We went to a hypnotism show after going out for drinks. The drinks hit me pretty hard when I walked in, and I was having a great time until the part where they called people up on stage, and they picked me. I was feeling pretty tipsy and not wanting to do it, so I shook my head no, but then my boyfriend grabbed me and tried to pull me up to the stage. I tried to resist being pulled along, but he was really yanking me up there. We'd gotten the attention of the rest of the audience, and they were all cheering for him to pull me up there. And I was kind of angry because first, I was feeling a little tipsy and nauseous, and second, because if my boyfriend had not wanted to do something, I'd respect that. I've often even been called the bad guy, saying no to things for him so he wouldn't have to because of social anxiety. So I was angry that he didn't respect it the other way around. So when he tried to pull me up to the stairs to the stage, I just went completely limp. 170 pounds of dead weight collapsing onto the bottom stair. I also started laughing at the whole situation. Remember, tipsy. He tried to lift me up, and I went full noodly, and then his brother joined in, and they both managed to lift me up, but couldn't keep a hold of me, so I just kept sliding to the ground. The crowd was laughing, but more at the guys now. Some people were joking about how the guys couldn't even lift a girl together. Someone in the crowd yelled out to ask if I was okay, and I yelled back, "No, I think I've just suddenly found myself single. I wasn't expecting that tonight." The hypnotist cracked a few jokes and then said that he couldn't hypnotize someone who was obviously not open to persuasion of any sort. I felt kind of bad for disrupting the show, though maybe he wasn't bothered. It was a comedy show after all. So I grabbed my friends and headed out, telling my boyfriend not to follow me. They took me back to their hotel and told me to sleep it off, figuring I hadn't meant what I'd said about the breakup. But in the morning, my now ex-boyfriend came by wanting to talk, and I stood by what I said, that it was over. I was angry that I'd always been so sensitive to his needs, even letting him cast me as the bad guy to get out of plans he didn't want to. But he saw my consent as a joke. I was over it. He was furious, saying that I was being rash. I had humiliated him by dumping him in front of a crowd, and he didn't even get it. How if I didn't want a scene, I'd made a bigger scene. I didn't feel like I was being rash. I want a partner who doesn't think it's funny to hear my no and ignore it. And not just ignore it, but think that it's funny to push me to do the crap I said no to anyway. Am I the idiot for how I reacted? Not the idiot. It's not the situation. It's the principle of it. You said no and showed a lot of resistance before eventually getting so frustrated that you broke up with him. He had plenty of time to rectify the situation but kept pushing you. It's not fair of him at all, and I don't blame you for dumping him. I would have been mortified and likely unable to defend myself in your position because I have such awful social anxiety. Good for you for standing your ground, or dropping to your ground, and not putting up with BS from a partner who should have your back and respect your autonomy. A good partner respects your boundaries. And don't worry about the show. Won't be the first time the hypnotist has seen that, and won't be the last, I'm sure. My sister got married on Saturday. She asked me several months ago to walk her down the aisle and to have a dance to honor our dad. I said, of course. Our dad died when we were kids, and we both have memories of him, and she wanted to honor him and feel connected to him on the day, and saw me as the best person for the job. So I walked her to her husband and danced to the song our dad used to sing to us. Our mother remarried the first year after our dad was gone. Her husband has no children and can't have kids of his own, so he made a big attempt to take over our dad's place and be regarded as the dad, which he wasn't. Despite knowing this and never being asked, he assumed he would be fulfilling father of the bride duties at my sister's wedding, and on the day he learned that it was me she asked, he was visibly upset. I had an idea he was expecting it but said nothing. Neither did she. At the reception, he confronted me and asked why I would do it when he was right there, and asked if I thought I was more deserving than him, her father figure. I told him it was my sister's choice, and she wanted me so we could honor our dad. He told me he deserved better than being completely ignored at the wedding and treated like he was not a parent or part of our family for the last 15 years. I shrugged, which made him even angrier. He and my mom were both furious at me for saying yes when I knew he wanted to do it. Am I the idiot? Your sister chose you over stepdad. I'm assuming there's way more backstory to the relationship you both have with the stepdad, and that's why she made the choice she did. You are a good brother and not the idiot. Why do people keep thinking that they can decide how someone should run their own wedding? Everyone is the idiot here. He could have handled his disappointment in a more adult manner. Both you and your sister, knowing he had genuinely tried his best to be a father to you both, even if you feel he failed, could have anticipated his hurt feelings, and your sister could have found some way to acknowledge the support he's provided. Most of all, your mother's the idiot for remarrying before the two of you were ready, as you pointed out how quickly it happened. You are not the idiot. Your sister asked you to take the place of honor. You were absolutely fine to accept it. Your sister was an idiot, not for choosing you, but for not saying anything to your stepfather. She knew it would hurt him. She was honestly cowardly for not having this discussion with him beforehand. From what you've said, he's not a bad guy. You never meshed as a family. He probably deserved an explanation before the wedding. All right, I confess that I'm not sure how I'm the idiot, but my wife and mother are both firmly against me, so I'm putting this out here for a second opinion. I'm a guy, if that matters. My wife has been out of the country for the last 2 months on business. During that time, the house next to ours got sold, and a lesbian couple and their daughter moved in. Their daughter is the same age as ours, pre-tween, and in the same class, so they've become good friends and play together. I don't know about best friends, but good friends. The couple themselves are Susan and Molly, fake names of course, and while I've never asked their ages, Susan is visibly in her late 40s or so, while Molly's in her early to mid-20s. My wife FaceTimes a lot and has heard about Susan and Molly and their daughter, largely from our daughter, but to a lesser extent from me. I never bothered to tell her about the age difference because, well, it's none of my business, and I don't care. On the other hand, my younger sister is Molly's age, who's also gay, and loses her mind over Cate Blanchett and Rachel Weisz, so I guess I'm just used to this sort of thing. While my wife came home, met our new neighbors, was noticeably cold to them, and blew up at me when we got home. She told me that either Susan was a creep or Molly was a shallow gold digger, and how dare I let our daughter anywhere near them. She thinks there's no way I wouldn't have considered that age difference was a red flag, and that I deliberately tried to hide it from her. Again, it never occurred to me to mention it. I tried pointing out that it seemed unlikely that Molly would be a gold digger, since we're not exactly living in the swankiest of suburbs, and they were able to adopt a child together, so they must be fairly healthy as a couple. Unfortunately, this just made my wife angrier, and she's been forbidding our daughter from seeing her friend, and this has gotten my mother on her side. So, am I the idiot? Should I have mentioned this? Not the idiot. What a weird way to find out your wife is a psycho. Your wife is being awfully judgmental about people she knows absolutely nothing about. Forbidding your kid to play with her next-door neighbor because of assumptions about her parents is way over the top. Why don't you get to know Molly and Susan better and find out the answers to some of these questions before you let your wife's imagination run rampant through the whole neighborhood? A 20-ish age gap, and you're not even sure what this is, isn't worth mentioning when it's not yours. Your wife is somehow triggered, and this is not a rational reaction. Also, what woman expects her husband to 1. Accurately identify the ages of women he's not paying attention to, and 2. Care enough to mention it? Most husbands don't notice when their wife gets a haircut. The age gap between neighbors is not going to register. I don't understand how your wife thinks she knows how old people are. Maybe one of them got Botox, or the other has weathered skin. There were 8 years between my parents, but it always looked like 20 because my mom aged well and my father didn't. It sounds like your wife has some separate issues that have nothing to do with your neighbor's age gap. Some background info. My mother, 37, had me, 20 male, at 17. She was never a mother to me, and I was raised by my grandparents and later my uncle, 34. When I was little, my grandma got sick, and my uncle, who was 22 at the time, started taking me in, and I moved with him full-time at 12. I only saw my mother for family events, and she always criticized me for my appearance, my hobbies, and what I liked. By 14, I refused to talk to and or see her. When I was 18, my uncle proposed to adopt me legally, so I decided to go see my mother one last time to inform her and have some closure. During this talk, she told me my father's name. I talked to my family about him. Long story short, everyone knows him. His family lived in the same town as my great-grandparents, and my family used to go there every holiday. I decided to try to meet him with my uncle. He, 36, moved back a few years ago to be close to his family, and he took everything well. I did make sure to inform him that I already had a dad. He told me he had no children and was interested in knowing me. He presented me to his parents. They even found pictures of me with him before he went to college. For the last 2 years, we've had a pretty great relationship. He got along well with my uncle. At college, I call him weekly, and I see him often. My bio dad never knew I was his son until 2 years ago. My mom always told us my father was a summer fling, and she didn't know who he was. The issue is his girlfriend, Anna. They don't live together and have been a couple for over 3 years. She made it clear that I had no place here. She reminded me of my mom, her attitude, her remarks, and her criticisms that I refused to go see him for a while. I think he realized it because he told me she didn't need to be here every time. I only see her when I eat with him at his parents'. She still manages to make it clear that I don't belong in this family. When I ask a question, she tells me stuff like, "If you were really a part of the family, you should know," always pointing out physical differences. So it was a surprise when she called me last week. I thought it was an emergency, so I answered. She told me that she wanted to move in with my dad, but he refused because he knew we didn't get along, and he wanted his house to be a safe place for me, and he was afraid I would come by less if she was here all the time. It's the truth. She then told me I should put my grudges aside and try to be nicer to her for my father's sake. I told her no. I had years of therapy to be able to remove toxic people from my life, and being with her is like being with my mom. I do not want to put myself in this kind of situation anymore. I talked to my uncle, and he agreed. For him, my mental health should always be my top priority, but some other people think that I should at least make an effort for my father's happiness, and that it would be selfish not to try. Not the idiot. Her attitude, not yours, prevents her from moving in with him. It's her that needs to be nicer and put grudges aside. She's the one who has issues with you causing your issues with her. So she's the one that needs to put in the effort to fix things. Tell your dad about this call. Sometimes people don't realize they're caught in an abusive cycle until someone points it out to them. Considering his girlfriend is very similar to his ex-wife, it sounds like he seems to gravitate to those types of people, which can happen when someone loses a lot of their own self-worth. Hopefully his father is open-minded enough to realize this and goes to therapy for it. And of course, dumping the girlfriend. She was way out of line to contact you, especially since he had set a clear boundary. Your father decided your feeling safe at his home was more important than moving in with her. So everyone who says you should put his happiness first needs to be quiet. He made his decision. Your dad is a big boy and capable of making his own decisions. If they've been together for 3 years and still haven't moved in, it sounds like he's always kept her at arm's length.